All right, welcome back to another lesson on text processing and analysis. In this lesson, we'll look at lesson 7.2 on tuples. Let's get cracking. The objective is that students will be capable of converting dictionaries to lists or list-like objects called dict items with tuples, and then working with those. So chapter 12 of Think Python talks about tuples, and one of the main things you need to really see here is that they are immutable, which means you cannot change them after they're created. And you create them by separating each element by a comma. And it says, although not necessary, it is common to enclose tuples in parentheses. So parentheses, let me make this really big. So you can very clearly see that this is a parentheses. This is not a square bracket nor a curly brace. This is a parentheses, separating these, kind of enclosing these elements of this tuple. But the main thing I want to stress is that they are immutable. So they're a little bit less flexible than lists. They're very much like lists, but they're not, you can't add anything to them after they're created. So that's what I say there. You can't change them by convention, and sometimes by necessity. Sometimes it feels like I've had to put in parentheses. So I would encourage you to just use parentheses if you ever create them manually. But the main place that we're going to see them is here with dictionaries. When we use the .items dictionary method, we get back a list-like thing called a dict_items object, which is very much like a list. And each element in that dict items object is a tuple. It has two things in it, a two-element tuple. The first one is the key, the second one is the value. Excuse me. So just to show that explicitly, let me just jump back to the previous lessons, a little bit of code here. And so here I have a dictionary, empty dictionary that I populated with 4 items. Right? I have a key of tall, and then the definition in the string is the value, etc. Let me just show you. I just want you to be very clear here on what's happening where. So I'm going to print out the type of what words and defs are. Let me not print this out for the moment. I'm going to run this script just to see that the type is definitely dict. It's a dictionary. Okay, good. Then I want to print out the type of word and defs elements. Let me run that now. And so now I have a dict items element. Let me show you, let me just print that out so you can see what that even looks like. Let me print out word and defs items, run the script. Okay, so here it is. So I have a dict items thing, and it looks very much like a list. It even has square brackets like lists have, right? And then within the square brackets, I have the first element right here, which has parentheses around it. And the first thing in that, it's a tuple, is a string tall, which was the key previously in the dictionary, right? And the second element in this 2-item tuple is the definition, which was the value in the dictionary. So I just want to print out the type of this thing so you can see that, yeah, that definitely is a tuple. So I'm going to print out the type of word and defs. After I get the thing back, I want to get the first one, which has index of 0, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, hey, I want the dictionary items given back, which gives me this dict items list-like thing. Then I want the first thing within that list-like thing. Now I just want the type, right? So I guess I could print it out just so you can see. I'm going to print out word and defs dot items, and then give me the first thing, which should be, let's see, here it goes. Oh, let me pause the video and figure out what I did wrong there real quick. We'll be right back. All right, so yeah, you can't subscript this dict items object. So what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to put it into a for loop, And I just want to look at the items. So I is holding the item. I print out the item, then I print out the type. So down here, I just ran it. And so here's the item, which comes back between parentheses. I'll make this bigger for us. Right there. We have two elements in it, right? We have tall as a string, and then a comma, and then the definition. And this whole thing right here is what's called a tuple, right? And so if, like I showed in the previous video, previous lesson, and lesson 7.1, you can actually come down here and get into each of these two elements in this two item tuple. And so I can say, okay, print out K plus, let's do an equal sign, something like that, just for fun. And then V, and print out the type of K, and then print out type of V. Run the script again. And yep, so what we have here is we have two strings. The data type of these things here are strings, but they're within a two item tuple, which is a data structure. It's a collection data structure that's not mutable, immutable. And each of those tuples is within a larger thing called dict items object, which is very much like a list. You can kind of just treat it as a list. Okay, so I just want to be clear, like what all these different types are, what thing you get back. It's important to like make sure you understand what's coming out with this function. This method gives you this dict item thing, which is like a list, and each element is a tuple. And within each tuple, you have two things. Each of those are strings, previously the key and the value in the dictionary. So just keeping track of these things is important. So if you need to pause the video and figure this out yourself and figure out what each of these things are, like with their types, it would be good to make sure you're very clear on what you're dealing with at each line of the code. Okay. So I just have one practice for this tuple lesson here. Use the dictionary method dot items to create a dict items object of two item tuples from your dictionary from above from the previous lesson. Iterate over the dict items and write to a CSV file each word definition pair with the words in one column separated by probably a tab and their definitions in the next column. Or comma, probably try a tab first. Okay, so try this. Try this to use this dot items dictionary method and then push it out to a CSV file as a two column thing. First column is what was the key in the dictionary, right? The word like tall, smart, building, quickly. And the second column has the definition for each of those words. All right, so pause the video and give that a try. All right, welcome back. Let's try that. Let me show you what. Let's try this. Let me back up a bit just to show the structure. So we have an empty dictionary on line 2. We populate with 4 items. Then right here on line 8, we just pull out the items into that structure called a dict items list-like thing object. And we just save it back to the same variable name. That's totally fine. Then here on line 9, we open up an out file connection to this file, this pathway, right? I give the pathway as a string. So I'm going to create a CSV file called words and defs.csv in my downloads directory. Once again, I need to put W here as a second argument so that we're writing out, right? Again, you don't have to put mode equals, but just to be very explicit for pedagogical purposes, mode equals W. We're going to write out. Then I save it as a variable name, right? As variable name, colon, new line, indentation. And then here I loop over what we did before. I loop over this object here. And you know what? It may be a little bit better to actually just put it down here so we can see that, yeah, this is the We don't need that line. We're gonna loop over the dict items list like object there, and we're looking at tuples, and we're going to go into the tuple. Each tuple has two things: what was the key in the dictionary and what was the value in the dictionary, right? Just as the first element and the second element, respectively, of each tuple. And then we're going to call the variable name on the out file, variable name dot write, and then we're going to just concatenate a string that will be written out to the out file. So we have the key, or what was the key is the first element in the tuple, but it was previously the key in the dictionary, plus a tab, plus a value, which was the second string element in the tuple, which was the value in the dictionary previously, plus a new line break. All right, so let's run this, see what happens. Running my code, no problems. It says exit code 0, so that means good, no errors. If there were an error, it would say exit code 1. So that means 0, so there's no problems there. If I wanted to, just to be very explicit to myself or anyone else who uses this code, you could say, something like all done. Yep, all done. It got to that point without airing out, and that exit code's still 0. Terrific. So if I go over to my downloads directory, I should have a words and defs.csv file now. Let me jump to my downloads. And there it is, words and defs. Let me just double click on it. It's going to open it up. Where is it going to open it up? Actually, let me open up Excel and try and open an Excel. Blank workbook. Go to the data tab here, data. From text. Go to my downloads, words and defs. There it is. And then I don't need to worry about encoding because it's all English, but this should be UTF-8 since it came out of Python 3. Oh, I need to say delimited right here, right? So I'm going to say, hey, there's a tab separating the columns. At this point, I can push finish. A1 would be fine. Good. So there we have it. We have the 4 words that were keys in the dictionary, right? And then their definitions. Now I don't have a header here. I don't have a header row, like row 1 doesn't say word and definition. For fun, if I wanted to do that, we could do that before we jump into the for loop. So right here, we can say out file, write word tab def new line break, like that. Rerun the script. All done. Good. Jump back over here. Blank workbook. From text. Get my words and defs. And make sure it says delimited. Again, I'm using English, but this really is UTF-8, and so might be good practice just to change it to UTF-8. Tabs, finish that. Yeah, that's good. Good. And there we go. Now we have a header row. Row 1 is a header with word and def. Okay. So that is all I'm really want to show you about. If you want to, by the way, if you want to pause the video and look at my code there, you should do so now. After we create the dictionary up here, right? Then we open up an out file connection. We write a little header here. We start looping over the 2-item tuples in the dict items object, which is like a list that comes out of, that is the output of the .items dictionary method. And we write it out to that out file with the variable name that we chose there. If you want to pause the video and make it work on your end, you should do so now. Okay. That might be better right there because it's all on line 8 is all in one line. But okay, so that brings us to a conclusion of lesson 7.2 on tuples. There's a lot more you can do with tuples, but that's all I wanted to show you because that's the main place we'll see tuples in our adventure in text processing analysis with Python, is that they come out of dictionaries when you use the .items list or dictionary method. So at this point, you should be capable of converting dictionaries to lists or list-like objects called dict items objects with tuples. All right, so that brings us to an end of lesson 7.2. See you next time.